All Obi Eboh wanted was to be someone. And if you're going to be listening to this conversation today, you are going to find out how this guy is following through on all of that in a big way. He joins me on the Onto Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley, and clearly his achievements, we're just getting started when you look at what he's done, from getting degrees at UCLA and Stanford, played football at both of those institutions. And here is where we get to know Obi on a deep level, where we peel back the layers and get to know who he is underneath the helmet and the shoulder pads. And he, of course, is just finishing up at UCLA, played defensive back there, had a chance to get to know him. And I work for UCLA and Fox Sports Radio. You can follow Obi on Twitter at Obi_Eboh3. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. Obi, I'm super excited about doing this. You're going to be sorely missed at UCLA. And I saw you put out that little note out there and how much gratitude you have for your time at UCLA. But when I look through your life and I see what you've done already, and you've got aspirations and dreams of making it to the NFL, and I know that's a big thought process of what you're working on right now. But when you look back at everything you've done so far, how much of your drive is tied to a fear of failure?
That's an interesting question. I think for a time in my life, I definitely was motivated by that. And that was something that I think may have had a grip on me, But I think ultimately, as I've grown through experiences that I had at Stanford and UCLA, I realized that necessarily wasn't the greatest thing, for me personally. Just because, if I have a fear of failure to do certain things, whether that's on the field or academically or socially, whatever it is, I think for me, that kind of holds me back in a way. I think that if I fear to fail at something, then I'll be conservative in maybe going for that interception, or, maybe taking this class or whatever it is. I feel like in some ways, I'll be conservative, or I won't do this action because of this, or because of this consequence, or because, whatever it is. I feel like I wouldn't say I've completely lost it, but I think taking away that fear of failure actually helped me grow exponentially even more, because then instead of, fearing like, oh my gosh, what if I don't make this play? It was like, dude, go for it. And that's when you make those plays, you make that best decision for your life. You know what I mean? If I feared to fail, then I probably wouldn't have left Stanford to go to UCLA. If I feared to fail, I probably wouldn't have made certain plays. You know what I mean? So, I think, taking that away, I think has benefited me a lot.
And as you were saying, fundamentally, these institutions you've been at, they have cultivated that desire and that will to go out on a limb and try new things and take risks and have successes come because of that. And I was reading through your note and you sort of saying goodbye to UCLA. And one of the things you said was that being in Westwood was a dream come true. Tell me about why.
Yeah, I think, part of me, even coming out of high school and being recruited, always wanted to be in LA and kind of see what that was like, and, obviously I went to Stanford and did some other things. I was actually committed to Texas before I was even going to Stanford. But, part of me is always like, man, I've never been to California. What is LA like? Man, there's so much stuff behind it I don't even know. But I guess when I say it was a dream come true, I think when I left Stanford, I had an idea of what I wanted to accomplish, a rough idea of what I wanted to happen at UCLA. And, I don't know if I could definitively like what each of those things were, but I would say in my experience from when I first got to UCLA, when there was COVID and there was so much going on, there was so much uncertainty, and there's uncertainty in my decision even leaving Stanford, from that to the end, finishing how we did for this team and for the UCLA program, like I couldn't have imagined it going any better way than that. To where, when I first came in, it was like, oh, these guys are young, blah, 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 about Coach Kelly and, all of that stuff. And then COVID hit. And then it was just like to be able to kind of turn the culture around and bring back a winning season to UCLA football. That was really important. And if you can see some of the posts on Instagram about the videos and our experiences throughout the season, and you'll see that everybody was having fun, man, and we were smiling and we were dancing, we were having so much fun. And I felt like for me, I hadn't had that much fun playing football in a long time. And that brought a smile to my face. And it was a crazy experience every time I was on the field. And I would joke around with Cam Johnson. Every time we would come back to the bench, we're like, bro, this is a movie. Like, this is crazy. Like, it was an overall crazy experience, football-wise, school-wise. Getting into the UCLA School of Law was something that I probably couldn't even have imagined. You know, if you told me that I was going to be in there a year ago, I'd say you're crazy, or 2 years ago. And all my experiences and people that I met socially, and the connections and relationships that I made along the way here, like all encompassing, it was a dream come true. I never would have thought any of that would have happened. So I guess that's what I mean by all that.
Obi Eboh joins me. I'm Bryan Fenley. And aside from how much you developed as a football player at UCLA over these last 2 years, as you were touching on, you thrust yourself into some really challenging academic programs. You were getting a master's in the law school. And how did you make that happen? How did you play such top flight football and then subject yourself to some rigorous schooling? I mean, there's different degrees out there, but what you did, that is a humongous time commitment. And so when you talk about growth in the last 2 years, sure, we see it on the football field, but academically and outside of the realm of football, where did you see it most while you were at UCLA?
That's a good question. I think, firstly, like I said in my message, I got to attribute a lot of those habits and fundamentals to Coach Shaw and the program at Stanford that they had for us. I mean, so many of the resources they have for us, you know, academically, and even in the summertime, we were able to work. We were building and forming habits that helped me with my time management and how to, you know, prioritize certain things over other things. So, you know, at first, just like everybody, when you're a freshman, you don't know what's going on, but then you grow as you become a sophomore, junior, upperclassman. And so when I brought those habits to UCLA, one thing that was different about the law school was that, you know, the class structure is very different than your undergrad. You know, instead of following the format on the quarter system where you have like midterms and exams and, you know, kind of like tangible ways to kind of check your progress in the law school, it was a little bit different. You know, a lot of the classes, the format was, you know, you're getting the material and you go to the lectures and you're learning, but there weren't like tangible quizzes or midterms that you would take. It was usually just you're presented the information, you're supposed to collect it and get acclimated to it, and then there's a final exam at the end. And if you do well, you do well, and if you don't, you don't. But you know, I had to become adjusted to that, and that was something that I had never really done. There's the Blue Book. There's, you know, gosh, what else? I mean, learning how to read and write memos. Goodness, I mean, there's just so much that I wasn't necessarily accustomed to in my undergrad, that I just had to learn on the fly here during COVID again. But, you know, I think I can attribute that success to my program director, Jason Fisk. He was super helpful and instrumental in my development in the law school. And he kind of sat with me every step of the way. And when I needed help, he was there and provided resources for me. He would tell me what professors I need to talk to, what people I need to reach out to, and what resources I need to look into to be successful. So, I mean, overall, to answer your question, I think I just have good people in my corner, man. They point me in the right direction of what I need to do. And so as long as I follow that, I think I'll be okay.
How in any way did your time within the UCLA School of Law, could it have made you a better football player, and how you foresaw what you did then academically at UCLA and how that ultimately could play into you becoming a better football player as you did at UCLA, but then taking it to the next level?
Yeah, I think it probably helped in a lot of ways. I think, you know, how I rationalize decisions, I think is important in both football and in my life. And I think, you know, when you're learning how to read memos and you're learning how to decipher about, you know, what is critical and relevant information in court cases and in case books and case law. You just learn how to like really decipher things the right way, and you have discernment. And discernment is one of the biggest things you gotta have in football, I guess I would say, for my position, as far as like being able to read certain coverages and routes and stems, and you gotta react quickly, to those decisions, and hopefully you get it right. But I guess I would say that probably helped in that way, or I guess it can translate to that. But shoot, in other ways, probably when you're contractually, when I get things, I think that that's probably the most relevant, right? Like,
Sure.
when I get documents, I think I might have a different perspective than maybe some other guys that are reading it. But yeah, that's definitely the most like relevant thing to me, probably, is like reading documents and contracts and some other stuff. So hopefully I understand those things a little bit better than some people, but we'll see.
Oh, clearly you're going to have a head start when it comes to those conversations. Obi Eboh is with us, former DB at Stanford and UCLA, on the On to Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley. So when ESPN came to Westwood for College Football Game Day, you did a great interview. And during that interview, you talked about your desire to want to be important and want to be special to someone. At the root of what you said there, what led to you thinking like that?
Yeah, man, I think, and I've thought about this a lot lately, to be honest, because I've had certain conversations with my teammates, like as we're leaving UCLA. I think a lot about legacy. I think a lot about, did I leave this place better than when I found it? Did I do as much as I can to help people and help the program that that brought me so much joy, and help, you got to pay it forward, things like that. I think about what football has done for me and how I feel playing football. And, it makes me feel important. It makes me feel like, I mean something to the program. I mean something to the guys in the locker room. I mean something to the strength staff and the medical staff and people in the building. They're there for us. And, I don't know very many jobs that can make someone feel the way that probably football makes somebody, and that's it's kind of hard to explain to someone that maybe might not know like what it means to be on a college football team and like have that experience. But there's nothing like it. Like, I can't even, in all the experience that I've had doing stuff and jobs and meeting people and school and football, like there's nothing like being on the football team with a bunch of guys and trying to get to a common goal and running out the tunnel and you smack somebody and you're like, there's literally, like, there's nothing like it. So I want to find something that makes me feel the way that football does. And I want to be important. I want to be important to somebody. I want somebody to wake up and like, I need Obi for this. You know what I mean? So I think I want to be important in that way.
How do you feel like you've been in a position in that you are important and that you're doing so much academically, football wise, and being that role model, where you've noticed times, whether it's in your football career, whether you're with the guys at UCLA or Stanford or outside of the realm of football, where you've used your position to give back and help others in a way in which you talk about bringing meaning, football, but also giving back, and how important it is for you to be a philanthropist and help others from using your experiences to bring up those around you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways that can happen, how I can help people. I think immediately in the locker room, especially being a veteran guy, having somebody like Devin Kirkwood sit next to me. I don't know if that was like planned or I don't know. But, being able to help him come in, he was an early enrollee, and, talk to him about, how you need to move coming into a program and how you need to go about learning certain things. And that this is how certain things operate. This is why this happens. This is why this doesn't happen. That's kind of hard for a young guy who doesn't even know what's going on. He's coming straight from high school, and you're just excited and you don't know what to do, but you're just going to do it. And I think I could provide insight football wise for him, even experiences outside of the football realm. Obviously, I got a few years on him. So, there are little things that he might come and ask me for, and not just specific to him, but any young guy. They'll come to me for certain, pieces of advice, on what classes to take, or, where should I go eat, or where, I could say a bunch of different examples of questions they might have. But I think that's one way. And also, I think just looking back, after I put out that message about the draft, my mom had sent me a message from some people that it was a Facebook group message from some parents from Southlake, and they were saying some pretty nice things about me and about how they're so glad that they have a guy like me to be a role model for their kids growing up in middle school in Southlake, because they said things along the lines of, I used my time wisely and I was able to, in an era of NIL and all this kind of stuff, I was able to focus on getting my degrees and making the most out of the experiences I had, and, still be able to, declare for the draft and do those kind of things. So taking care of both, kind of doing, the things that people aspire to do and be a role model in that way, and that's something that I probably wouldn't even have known if, my mom didn't send that to me. But just being able to be an example for people, I think that's what I want to do anyway. I like leading by example. I like showing people what it means to work hard and do the right things. And, maybe more people are watching than I know, but, I like to lead by example and kind of show people the way, and, if they follow, they follow.
In essence, by you doing that, you are doing stuff that most only dream of. And so that plays into as well what makes you special, but that you've taken that role and found it so important to, like you said, boost others around you and make them feel like there are things that they can get done as well. And when I look at your experiences, and when you think about your experiences football wise, and people go to you obviously for inspiration, for advice, you talk about Devin, Kirkwood, and first of all, I can't even imagine the excitement you had when he had that interception against Washington. That must have been for you so fun to watch someone who you had helped mentor do that from this past season. But when you rely on yourself and your experiences in football, where do you think you're going to go to those experiences most to help you with this next chapter in your life, which you're about to go after, and that is the NFL?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what's coming next for me, or in any next step, there's always uncertainty and there's always going to be adversity, right? Those are two of the things that you can almost damn near guarantee.
Sure.
And so my experiences that I've had coming to UCLA, transferring, not knowing what's going to happen, immediate uncertainty, COVID, are we going to play a season? Are you going to be able to learn the playbook and be able to come in and start? I think dealing with the uncertainty is something that I've become accustomed to pretty recently and really throughout my whole career. And, with the NFL, you never know what's going to happen. You might get drafted, you might go undrafted, you might get cut, and you got to go try out for another team, hop on a plane and, go across the country, and then they might keep you. Oh, you're signed to practice squad now. There's constantly moving parts in the NFL, and you got to be ready and get acclimated very quickly. And I think because of my experiences that I've had at Stanford and UCLA, I think I'll be able to adjust pretty quickly to that. And then obviously the same thing with adversity. You never know what's going to happen. You might get cut. You got to move around. You got to come in and start for an NFL franchise at an inopportune time, like my boy Davis Mills doing right now.
Yes.
So, you never know what's going to hit. And I think, especially through 2020 to now, I think we've all gone through, copious amounts of adversity. So I think in that regard, I'll be well prepared. And I think everything that my parents have instilled in me to keep pushing no matter what. I mean, they came over here to America to start a new life for us. And, that's about as adverse as it can get. And I think that's something that has been instilled in me from a young age. And so I think I'm just going to continue to do that and keep trying to implement the values that they taught me.
Yeah, and Obi, you've been open about what your parents went through, the challenges, like you said, to get to the United States and create a life for themselves in America, but then also create this life for you. And I can feel that there is this desire to make them feel proud in that they came over here and now you're sort of taking the baton and making sure that you're able to maximize your experience and to show them how proud they should be of you. When you think about how your mom was able to come over from Jamaica, what has she told you about the adversity that she dealt with and stories that you might rely on and say, hey, she got through this, so I can definitely get through that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys know that Jamaica is a third world country. And, most people might not even know that because they go to vacation in Montego Bay and everything's super pretty and it's nice. But my mom's from Kingston, the capital. And I guess to put it very bluntly, things aren't great over there. And she was dirt poor. And she lost family members from early age. She lost her dad from a really early age. And, things were obviously rough for her. And she had to find a way to make it over here and start a new life for her. She was very smart. And she got a scholarship to Texas Southern University over here in America. And I feel like if she can do that, it's like, why can't I be able to go to Stanford or UCLA, get in the UCLA School of Law? Like, why can't I, why can I do that and be a starter? Why can I do that and go to the NFL if she can do those kind of things? And same thing with my dad. So it's like you said, the baton is being passed because they had their experiences and brought them over here and have me. I feel like it's my responsibility to do even better and push us forward even more, because I feel like, one, I'm doing them a disservice, and I'm doing a disservice to my life if I don't do that. If they provided this platform for me, then this is what I should be doing. These are the steps that I should be taking for my life. And then when I have my son and my family, I'm pushing them to do even more. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. The baton will be passed to them. And I feel like those are the kind of things and values that I want to instill. And that's the legacy that my parents have left, and it will continue on throughout my family. So, there's a lot of things that I attribute to them, and my success. I feel like it's all them, man.
It's really cool to see just the root of where those drives come from and how often we rely on our parents, especially their stories of triumph. And, I think about it for like my dad, and, he died when I was a teenager, and everything that I do is trying to make him proud to this day. And so I could totally relate in a way in which, and he grew up super poor and passed away. And so you get the drive from the parents, and I am driven by what you're doing. And I wanted to ask you just two more questions here. In the steps that you are taking in moving on to the NFL, what have we not seen from you yet that you are going to be able to show to NFL teams as you work yourself up in that position to be ready for the pros, where you're going to maximize your time here in the next couple of months?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I'm just excited to be able to, I'm going to be able to spend a ton of time on football. And now that I've graduated and completely finished school, I know when I allocate my time, and mostly all of my time, to something, it usually ends up being a good thing. I end up learning a lot. So I'm gonna be putting a lot of time into my training. I'm gonna be putting a lot of time studying our playbook and being able to, show the NFL personnel how much I know about the game, how much I put in my time for studying, how much time I'm going to put in for my training, and going to be able to run fast. So I'm ready for the whole experience, man. I'm excited to show the scouts how fast I'm going to run at the pro days, and how high I'm gonna be able to jump, how much I'm gonna be able to bench. I'm excited to get on the chalkboard with them and talk ball. I think that's probably one of the very things that I do, and talk about them, talk with them about football conceptually. Dude, I'm excited for it all, man. I think, you know, having my time completely dedicated towards football, you're going to see a lot of different things. I'm excited for them to see me play the ball in the air and, you know, show my ability to create turnovers, and be disruptive, and show them I'm be able to move. You know, a 6'2", long ass corner. You know, you might not think he can move around as well as I can, but you know, I'm excited to show them. I'm excited to prove people wrong. I'm excited to just have the experience, and I'm very blessed to be in this opportunity in the first place. So I'm just excited to show everybody everything, really.
And it's hard to find somebody as knowledgeable about football as you, given all of your experiences. So yeah, you're going to talk X's and O's with those guys and gals. It's going to be a lot of fun. You've probably also talked a lot of football with Chase Griffin, but I'm sure you've also had conversations beyond football. You guys go way back from your Texas days. And as you move on, and you obviously will always leave your legacy at UCLA, what does the general public, Obi, not know about Chase, and what a valuable piece he is to the football team, but also the school and UCLA as a whole?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I would pull up the picture right now and show you, from the opening 2015, when Chase was there with with Coach Dilfer, and we all took a picture together. And at that time, I wasn't even committed to Stanford. We were just taking pictures, and we were all there. And it ended up coming full circle, man. It was funny. But Chase is such a valuable piece of this team in so many different ways. Obviously, you guys have seen all the stuff that he's doing with NIL. But I'd say the biggest thing he is an inspiration. I'm not sure if you guys remember when he had to fill in for Dorian in 2020 because of the COVID issue that we had. And I'm not sure what the general public thought, what the opinions were, but we weren't worried at all. We had full belief that Chase could come in and do the things he could do because of his confidence, because of his aura, because of how much time he puts into the game and how important it is to him. And I know you guys know about his belief, you know, his kind of brand that he's got going, but that's truly what Chase Griffin is. He's an inspiration. We believe in his abilities, and that translates over to the guys on the team. And when we see him put in the work, we all, you know, it resonates. And I feel like, you know, some of those things, you know, they go unsaid, but you know, subconsciously, I feel like a lot of people know. And so for Chase, I feel like that's where his role is that, you know, he is one of the most important people on the team because we see how hard he works on and off the field, and it's an inspiration to everybody. So he's an amazing student. He's an amazing athlete. He's got a very bright future ahead of him.
And for you, he's a lifelong friend. He is an inspiration. But Obi, as we wrap this thing up, let's be honest, man, you are an inspiration. And clearly that was what I wanted people to see here. Those that are learning more about you and watching this and listening to this conversation, more people need to know about Obi and what you're all about. And I'm excited to get the word out on this, excited to see what you do. And thanks for all that you did in Westwood. And I am going to be one of your biggest cheerleaders here as you take the next steps into your career, football wise and beyond. You're going to absolutely crush life. And I'm going to be hoping that you don't forget about me one day. Obi Eboh, I'm Bryan Fenley. Obi, really appreciate the conversation, man. It was a blast.
No, thank you so much for having me, man. It's been a blessing, and I've enjoyed my experience here at UCLA, and I've enjoyed getting to meet you and everybody else, and I'm excited for the future. I appreciate you guys so much, man. I really love everybody here and everyone that's been a part of my journey. So thank you so much.